Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. We have 20 days until fall equinox of 2023 as the countdown continues. Make sure if you're not a new subscriber to the channel to consider subscribing to the channel down below as I cover all of North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics on this channel to keep you ahead of the weather forecast for your area. And make sure to press the thumbs up button as it helps to get all of this weather information out to as many people as possible. So without further ado, let's get into the weather forecast here for today. Looking at the overall map and the height anomalies for today, what this shows is in the reds, that's where the higher pressures are. In the blue and purples, those are the lower pressures. So you see a trough out here across the west into northern California and Oregon. That's going to be bringing some more unsettled weather for our western areas here as we go through this weekend. And then we have more high pressure starting to build in across portions of the Midwest, getting into the eastern two-thirds of the country today. And that actually extends into early next week as well as we start to see some big high pressure building in for Monday and Tuesday east of the Rockies for our eastern two-thirds of the country and even our southern tier as well, from Texas down here through Florida, through the Carolinas and Georgia as we go into early next week. Taking a look at the temperatures this afternoon expected, you can see we're back into the 90s, lower 100s here, really centered across the Great Plains. So if you're from the Dakotas down through Nebraska here, maybe western Iowa, getting into Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, even Louisiana as well, it's going to be a scorcher of a day. We're going to be seeing highs well above average in these areas into the 90s and low 100s. As we extend into your Sunday, much of the same. That actually spreads a little bit further to the north and east, and we could be shattering some records up here into the upper Midwest. We're up to 101 degrees into the Twin Cities region, 97 in Des Moines, and up to 95 there in Kansas City for your Sunday afternoon. So shattering some monthly records up there in the upper Midwest is possible. And then as we go into Monday, Labor Day, you do see that heat starts to expand a little bit further to the east. So the mid-Atlantic, getting into the northeast, parts of New England, it's going to start to heat up there well into the 80s and low 90s we go with our high temperatures by Labor Day across those areas. And then later next week, Thursday into Friday time frame, we start to see a more dominating feature here, and this is a high pressure system across the southeastern Four Corners region and into West Texas. And this is going to be in firm control of our weather pattern later on next week. So we're going to see more heat building in by the middle of the week on Wednesday, September 6th across the southern tier here. So expect upper 90s to well into the triple digits again. So 99 up here toward the Wichita region, 101 in Oklahoma City, 105 in Wichita Falls, and 101 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area there on Wednesday. And then as we extend into Friday next week, you can see this is September 8th, where more of those triple digits are going to be featured across Oklahoma, and getting into Texas here, exacerbating the drought conditions across this region. 102 across Oklahoma City, 108 there in Wichita Falls, 104 in Dallas, and even 103 down into the San Antonio region as we go into the next Friday's time frame. But further to the north, you can see there's a little bit of a weakness over the top of that ridge, so temperatures by next Friday will be much cooler. 70s and 80s. We go from the Chicagoland area up there through the Twin Cities, getting in toward the Bismarck and Fargo regions as well, and that extends over into New England. So places like Buffalo, New York, getting up there into Portland, Maine, it's going to be nice and cool for you by next Friday on September 8th. And looking at the overall precipitation trends here, this is the ensemble guidance showing you from the European models where the precipitation overall through the next week or so will be. This goes through Sunday, September 10th through next weekend, really largely focused across the Pacific Northwest, the upper Midwest here, and into southeastern Canada, over top of that ridge of high pressure. And it's going to be very dry down here to the southeast and the southern plains from Texas over here to the Georgia region, the Carolinas, and Florida especially. Very dry here, the deeper oranges. It's going to be tough to get some rainfall according to the European model. And the GEFS ensemble, the American ensemble guidance, is very dry for Florida and even southern Georgia as well. And that extends in further to the west across Texas here. But you do see same theme is that it's going to be more active across the Pacific Northwest, the upper Midwest here in southeastern Canada, with more of those whites and greens showing up there through the later portion of next weekend. And overall, that's not going to help our drought concerns because the areas in which it rains is not really where we need the rain here. Across portions of the northern Rockies, yes, maybe northern Montana needs some rain and up into North Dakota, but other than that, we really don't need much rain there in Wyoming or portions of the western Dakotas or northern Colorado right now. We need the rainfall in the upper Midwest, the Central Plains, and especially we need it desperately down here into Texas, into Louisiana, near the Gulf Coast, and even into New Mexico. Very dry, and unfortunately, I see these drought conditions worsening before they do get better across this region. And looking at the total rainfall accumulation map now through next weekend, this takes you through Saturday, September 9th, and you can see largely most of the areas that need the rainfall desperately just aren't going to get it. Yeah, we could be seeing some rainfall beneficial there into southern portions of Louisiana, getting into Missouri, and then maybe up there into North Dakota and southeastern Canada. But other than that, there's just not a lot of rainfall to go around here for Texas, for Oklahoma, for Kansas, for New Mexico, those areas that desperately need the rainfall, even up into Iowa. We're just not seeing a lot of that going through next weekend. So unfortunately, the news is not all great there with the rainfall front. But looking here at the tropical weather forecast here, very busy in the North Atlantic. We have Idalia, we have Gert, we have Cadia up here as well. We have a new system we're going to be watching that is pressing just west of the African coast. And this actually has some legs with it. It has a 70% chance of development, according to the National Hurricane Center, as it steps out into the main development region, or the MDR, and then moving toward the Caribbean or the Western Atlantic over the next 7 to 10 days. And just looking at this on visible satellite imagery here, that wave right now is just coming off of the coast of Africa. So it's well out to sea right now, not even close to the Caribbean, the Western Atlantic, or even the United States for that matter. But we're going to continue to watch it for you here. So looking on Monday, this is Labor Day on September 4th. This is the European ensemble members. It takes a cluster of the members and shows you where a lot of these show where the pressure will be. And by Monday, it's still well to the east of the Lesser Antilles in the main development region. Then as we go into the middle of next week on Wednesday, on September 6th, we start to see a stronger system, maybe a tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm trying to brew up here into portions of the main development region, again, well east of the Lesser Antilles. And then as we go into Friday, September 8th, towards the next weekend time frame, this will be approaching the Lesser Antilles and even portions of the Caribbean and the Western Atlantic. So we're going to continue to watch this very closely. Some of the guidance has this out to sea, and others is very close to those islands here, including getting closer to Puerto Rico. So we need to keep an eye on that towards next weekend. And then by Sunday, later next weekend on September 10th, we're several days out now, but it starts to give you an idea of where this could be heading. Some of the ensemble guidance is more bullish on moving this as a fish storm further to the north here and away from the United States, and others move it further west, very close here to the Greater Antilles, the Bahamas, and even the Western Atlantic toward the southeast coast of the United States. So we really need to watch this new system very carefully as we go through the next 7 to 10 days. And just looking at some of the individual operational models, this is the ECMWF or the European model. It does show a 989 millibar low just north of the Dominican and Puerto Rico as we go through that Sunday time frame. Again, this is mainly over the open waters, but definitely would have an influence with some wave heights out there, some rip currents, and maybe even some rainfall for the islands as well. The Canadian model, the CMC, is a little bit slower of a solution, but also kind of a general idea, a strengthening system down to a 982 there, and also north of the islands, maybe again, rip current risk, stronger waves, and maybe some rainfall at times there as well. And then the GFS model is a little bit more of an outlier right now. It's a little bit further south and moves it over the island of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. So that would be a little bit more worrisome at a 982 millibar low. So we're going to continue to watch this over the next several days for you here on Weather on the Go. But just looking at North Atlantic hurricane season and its frequency right now in climatology, you can see we're getting into peak hurricane season. The second and third weeks of September is the busiest time of year here climatologically across the North Atlantic, and we're stepping into early September now. So that means we're going to be climbing the ladder a little bit further and finally reaching our peak there by the middle of September. So we're really getting close to the peak of the hurricane season in the North Atlantic. But turning to the eastern Pacific Ocean, we have another system out here to watch as well, and that's just crossing over the Central Americas, and it also has legs with it at an 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. You can see it's a little bit disorganized right now, but those taller convective cloud tops do signal that this is starting to strengthen as it's moving over the open waters, the warm waters of the eastern Pacific Ocean here. So by Labor Day on Monday, we got a little bit maybe of a tropical depression or just an open wave still developing there. But as we go into the middle of next week, a depression or a low-end tropical storm down to a 1,000 millibar low can be expected off the coast of Mexico, pushing to the west here. And then by later next week on Friday, September 8th, likely a hurricane as it moves across the open waters of the eastern Pacific. But the good news here is it's going to miss the Baja of California and Mexico and actually be moving away from North America. So the only concern that we have for this one would be for some stronger waves there for the west coast of Mexico, and maybe even some rip currents there as well. So that would be something to watch going through later next week. Looking at the wave heights for you folks, you can see elevated waves near the coast there of Mexico, especially on Wednesday. And then as it moves away, it gets stronger. Those waves could spread up there toward the southern tip of the Baja of California and northwest Mexico at times as well on Friday, September 8th. But overall, not really seeing any direct impacts from this system, which is some good news in the eastern Pacific. Well, if you want additional weather forecast updates, make sure to hit the description down below the video and follow me on Twitter or X at hweather420. I do update on that platform very frequently, and I will keep you updated on there about this upcoming hurricane season with more information on those two new systems. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching today's weather forecast, everybody, and make sure to, if you are not a subscriber to the channel, subscribe to the channel down below as I cover all in North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics. Also, be sure to press the like button and share this video with friends, family, and on social media, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I definitely appreciate that as well. It helps to get the word out to more and more people. I hope everybody has a great rest of their weekend out there.